In this video, I tell you about the murder of Heather Strube by a family member. Then I take you to the crime scene. Welcome to True Crime Beyond. The episode, It Looks Like You, details the murder of Heather Strube in the parking lot of a Target store in 2009, and how the footage from the parking lot cameras played a role in finding the killer. So let's talk about the case. Heather Strube was a 25-year-old single mother who was working as a wedding coordinator. She got married to Stephen Strube in 2004, and they had a son named Carson. However, they had separated in 2008 and were involved in a custody battle for Carson leading up to the time that she was killed. Now, on April 26, 2009, Heather drove down to the local Target parking lot to pick up Carson after a visit with his father. Now, this was a spot that they had used a few times before, and about 6 p.m. in the evening, Heather was shot point blank on her forehead using a .38 caliber handgun, with Carson still strapped in the back seat of her car. 911 calls and eyewitness accounts described the shooter as a short, thin, white male wearing khaki pants and a button-up shirt. In addition, the assailant had black hair and a mustache, and a composite sketch was made from the eyewitness descriptions, and the police who arrived on the scene concluded that robbery was not a motive since Heather's purse was still in a car. This led to them to consider a more personal reason that might have led to her death. Stephen was quickly ruled out as a suspect since the parking lot camera showed him leaving before the murder. Another camera caught the suspect entering and leaving the lot, but the face wasn't visible. The investigation had its first big lead when an eyewitness who was staying in a motel behind the Target called the authorities. He stated that he noticed someone similar to the composite sketch clicking pictures of the area while sitting in a white pickup truck the day before the murder. The investigation steered Joanna's way when the eyewitness identified her truck as the one he had seen. Joanna Hayes, who eventually was convicted of the crime, was Heather's mother-in-law. In her initial interview, she had denied committing the crime, but she had admitted to disliking Heather and had felt that she wasn't good enough to raise Carson. The police then theorized that Joanna could have disguised herself to kill Heather in order to prevent her from gaining custody of Carson. After the eyewitness account, the police obtained a search warrant for Joanna's car. A forensic examination found wig fiber in the truck along with traces of gunshot residue on the steering wheel and the dashboard. At her trial, the prosecutors alleged that Joanna put on a wig and a mustache when she killed Heather, and testimony from Joanna's ex-husband brought to light the fact that she carried a .38 caliber Lady Rossi 5 handgun with her at all times. While the murder weapon was never found, the evidence presented by the prosecution and the various testimonies from eyewitnesses and family were deemed enough by the jury to find her guilty. Joanna Hayes was found guilty of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. She was sentenced to life in prison. Now, what's interesting about this case is not only the relationship between Joanna Hayes and Heather Strube, but also the crime scene. The scene of the crime is in an area, especially at that time of day, that's very heavily populated, heavily traveled. There's a lot of activity going on. And so the idea of having committed this murder, this crime, at this time of the day is really interesting and really kind of speaks to the brazen attitude of Joanna Hayes at that time and really her desire to kill Heather. So let's look further into the crime scene. So as we drill down into the crime scene, the first thing we notice here is that it takes place out of Atlanta, Georgia. And to the east of this perimeter that surrounds Atlanta is Gwinnett County, and in Gwinnett County there is this city called Snellville, and that's where the crime took place.
And the first thing I want to draw your attention to is from this bird's eye view is just how densely populated this area is. As you can see, there's houses and neighborhoods as far as the eye can see from this crime scene. And there's this medical center here, and there's this retail corridor here with restaurants and retail stores, and just a lot of it's a very busy area. And to top it off, there's these two major highways that intersect right here, right at the Target shopping center, and that's Scenic Highway and Ronald Reagan Highway. And so very busy intersection here on these two very busy corridors, highways. And the other thing about this crime scene is that the crime actually took place in the early evening on a Monday, and so it's during a time when people are commuting home to this area, to all these houses. And so it's very busy time of the day. It's highly populated area, and so it really speaks to the brazen attitude of the killer to actually go through with this crime at this time of day on that day. And it honestly it had to be that way, I guess, because it was dictated by when the drop-off would take place, right? And so this is actually the area where the murderer parked before the crime took place, in this hotel parking lot here. And you don't really get an image of this on the episode, but I'm just going to show you how it worked. And as I mentioned before, the timing of this plan had to be pretty precise, because it's only a matter of minutes after the baby is dropped off that Heather Strube is going to be here before she takes off. And so it's a matter of minutes in the timing of this plan that it's got to take place. And so the killer parked here, and after parking here, waited, I guess, for the time that would be opportune for her to make her way to the crime scene, and walk through this tree line, walk back behind this Target shopping center, through this tree line. And in the episode, you see really an image of this area right here a lot. Because this camera over here is really pointing towards this area here. You see the killer come out of this tree line, down this walkway here, all the way down here, commit the murder, walk back, and you see them walking across the street onto this sidewalk and disappearing into these tree lines, where they make their way back through here behind this Target, all the way back to this parking lot, and then they get away. And so what I also want to draw your attention to is just how many ways that they can escape this area without having to go back behind here or by here next to the crime scene to possibly be pointed out or by a witness that may have seen them. And so this person could have gone this way and back down Ronald Reagan Highway, or could have gone here through this medical center and made their way out. Could have gone this way and made their way out this way. And so there's just a multiple amount of ways to escape once they get back behind this Target and into this parking lot here. And so I just want to drill down in here just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at in terms of the parking lot and what it looks like from the Google Street View. And so this is it right here. As you can see, the landmark really is this pole right here. And as you see, there's a lot of busyness going on here in the Google Street View, but the murder really took place in this parking space right here. Right here, it's kind of covered up a little bit, but the landmark really is this pole right here, and we understand that because of this island right here. It's right off of this island, and you can also tell from the distance the number of aisles that are here. You can count back from what you see in the surveillance video to really show you that this is really the light pole where next to that the crime took place. And as you can see, as we make our way over here, we can kind of see what the surveillance video was showing us with this pathway up here, where the killer escaped after the murder. So anyways, what I'll do is I'll take you through the path of the killer. I'll take you through where they started, where they came through. I'll take you from the crime scene all the way through this tree line and all the way back here to this parking lot, and show you how they got there. and also coming back here on the initial walk up to the crime scene.
Snellville, please. Snellville, this is County. I have someone says they're at the Target on 124. They say someone just got shot. Can you see that address? Do you know it? It's 1905 Chinook Highway. She has a baby in the car. And all the windows are up on the car. There's a baby in the car, too? There is a baby in the car. You can't miss it. I mean, people are standing around and she's laying at the back of the car motionless. Okay, and who shot her? Okay. Bill shot her. And I didn't see him, but there's some people over here that probably did see him. He actually walked into the woods behind the Target, yeah.
Because the suspect left on foot going around the corner of the building. So we wanted to track to see where they went to.
I followed him through a grassy area beside the building towards the backside of the building to a concrete area, and that's where the dog lost the track.
The track stops cold outside a nearby hotel. An officer follows up with staff on the front desk. But the moving camera means Downs can only see what happened to Heather when it pans in the right direction.
When we started looking at the video, it was grainy, it wasn't preserved well. We were terribly disappointed.
Okay, as we see here, we're coming from behind the Target store on the Ronald Reagan Parkway side of the store, which is the left-hand side if you're looking from the front of Target. And this is just the assumed path of the killer. As you can see, Ronald Reagan Parkway over there on the right-hand side. I took this footage on a Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning just to kind of reduce any kind of traffic that would interfere with my filming. And so this is not really a true representation of the time of the crime. But you can imagine on a Monday at 6 o'clock, how much traffic will be coming in and out of this Target parking lot and on Ronald Reagan Parkway. But this is kind of leading up to to where the killer would take the path that's right next to that Target sign there. And this is kind of ever present in the episode. You can see this a lot. And the Target signs actually changed over the years. It's changed, the color scheme, where it's primarily red here, but back in the time of the filming it was primarily white. So it's changed a little bit, but it's still the same. The other stores are still there. But as you can see, this is kind of the path that the killer may have taken, because we see in the crime scene video and that they actually walked down this sidewalk here. And so we're taking the path of the killer down here, down this sidewalk into the parking lot and across this street. And you'll see that in the CCTV video, just walking down this path and across the street and into the parking lot. Those shipping crates weren't there in the time of this crime, but they are now. As you can see, the killer would have taken a similar path to this, cutting across these parking spaces. And ironically, that black car in the distance is actually in the very spot, the very parking spot that Heather Strube was parked in. There's our landmark there, that light pole. And so the killer would have just taken this path here, and so they would have walked. And the timing on this has got to be very precise. There's only a couple of minutes between the time that Heather has made the switch with the child, and not long after that she's going to be moving out of the parking lot, leaving. And so the timing on this is pretty remarkable in terms of how fast it took place and coming from the back. So the crime takes place, and then the killer makes the escape, walking back through the parking lot, across the street, and back up to up to the sign and back up the walkway, the sidewalk. And as you can see in the crime scene video, she steps right over that mark right there, that corner mark between the sidewalk and the street right there. She steps right over that, right over that, and up the sidewalk, right across the front of that sign, that Target sign. And so we're gonna make that same path and just really going back across that sign, up the sidewalk presumably, and not sure if she went all the way up that sidewalk and down the Ronald Reagan Parkway, but it probably makes sense that she cut through here and made her way back to the hotel parking lot. And again, as you can see, there's Ronald Reagan Parkway. At this time of the day, there had to have been, lots of cars coming and going. Ronald Reagan Parkway is a big corridor from the other cities outside of Atlanta into Snellville. And so at 6 o'clock on a Monday, obviously there'd be a lot of people commuting back home into Snellville using Ronald Reagan Parkway as the main corridor. So this is presumed that she would cut through here. And, in one of the 911 calls, the statement was made that she escaped through the woods by the Target. And so it would make sense that she would be coming through here and ultimately back down into the back of the Target. And not sure if she was walking casually, not sure if she was walking in haste, as maybe casually just to be noticed, But walking back through here, back behind the Target, she would make her path back here. And again, this is behind the Target, walking back through this path and on her way back to the hotel parking lot. When I took this video, I didn't take the direct path behind where the episode takes us through, because there were some people that were milling around over back behind it. This hotel is no longer a hotel per se anymore. It's an extended stay like apartment. So there's a lot of vagrancies going on, a lot of people hanging around, milling around. So it just didn't seem like it was a time to really be filming. And I actually did come back a couple of weeks later and did some extra filming to get that shot of coming around through the back of the hotel, to get that shot coming in where the killer probably would have taken the route. And I think it's even implied in the episode that the dogs actually took them back through this path, which is this path right here through the back and into where the smoking cigarette butt station is at. So this is where the killer, this is where they got into the truck and made their escape.